Okay, we're going to kick it off. So our fearless leaders here today, we have Greg Genesee. He is the head of customer experience and enablement for DFS Climate FieldView. Welcome, Greg. Thanks for kicking us off. And we also have Mark Harris. Mark is the director of global partner engagement and outreach, and I actually work directly with Mark. So and again, my name is Megan McNamee. You will see me several times throughout this event, and I am the U.S. partnership developer who worked with your partners to get this going today. So welcome, Mark and Greg. Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you everybody for being with us today, being engaged and showing interest to learn something about our FieldView partner ecosystems and our connections. But before we get too deep into the partner side of things, Greg, also really good to have you with us. And maybe to get us started, can you share some of your thoughts with us on FieldView itself and the relevance that it has for our farmer customers today?
Sure, Mark, and good morning, everyone. As I reflect on where we are today with FieldView, we've been around for about 10 years now on the market. And through these 10 years, we've grown to become the #1 grower-chosen digital ag platform with close to 35,000 users from coast to coast. And really, thinking about it, there's so much more options and technology on the farm accessible to farmers today. What FieldView really offers is that opportunity for a farmer to really collect all the data around his practices from planting to harvest, and then being able to go back and look at what's worked for them and what hasn't, right? Cutting through that clutter of technology and choices. One central repository of information compatible with a lot of equipment, right? We always talk about it being colorblind. But collecting data is something that growers have been used to doing, but now it's really the fact that we're collecting it digitally offers so much more power to then analyze that data. And recently, our national sales meeting, our special guest speaker was Billy Beane. Billy Beane from the 2002 Oakland baseball team. And it was really a really nice comparison to think about, right? How they started with a small team analyzing the data, really looking at those player stats to put together a team that would go all the way. And it's really something that I see very much a very close comparison to what farmers are able to do today, looking at that data and making those better decisions on how to outbeat last year's yield and become even more profitable going forward.
That's awesome. That's a super cool journey to learn from that we're at now. Can you share some of your thoughts on where FieldView is really headed in the future? So what's really your vision for the business as you carry it forward?
Sure. So going forward, I think a lot of it is continuing to do the same, right? It's just amplifying. So we're working on. We've got a pretty full pipeline of new features and functionalities that our growers will be discovering here in the next, let's say, 18 months. But it's all going to be around continuing to drive features that help growers on their day-to-day decision making. Our vision is to become a daily tool essential to farmer decision making, and we spend a lot of time analyzing what those farmer jobs are, and then understanding, hey, is there a way that digital can help in that job and help in that decision making, and how do we provide those insights? How do we make that growers' data work for them in an enhanced way? Our strategy really lies on 3 pillars. One is to continue to deliver value to the farmer through those insights, again, through that decision making that they can make themselves based on their own data. Second pillar is how do we work more hands in hands with their trusted advisor, which in a lot of cases is their seed dealer or their retailer. And so we're really starting to put together a roadmap and looking at what are some dealer functionalities, dealer features into FieldView that we could bring them that would be dealer focused specifically so that they can continue to really provide those more science-based recommendations to their growers. And then last but not least, it's around partnerships, right? We've built an ecosystem, and really that ecosystem it helps expand that FieldView experience for our users. And it's that, opportunity for them to share that data that they're already collecting in FieldView, but then get more value out of it. Not just the value that FieldView and its features brings, but the value that all our partners then can bring to that grower. But really, when we talk about partnerships, Mark, that's your wheelhouse. So, why don't you tell us a little bit more about how you, from your seat in the bleachers, see the value of those partnerships for farmer customers?
Yeah, happy to do so. And you hit the nail on the head. So I see our ecosystem of partners really as a group of innovators that really help our farmer customers solve problems every day in the field that we as FieldView are not necessarily focused on. That is not necessarily our core competence, right? So that can mean things like you mentioned with regard to really putting the data that you have in FieldView already into use and feeding something like crop insurance reporting, like we'll see also later today, farm profitability analysis, farm accounting, or grain management analysis and tools. Or it can really be getting a specialized job done, something in scouting, a soil sample, and then getting that back into FieldView to compile with your other data and have more robust analysis and insights when you do your on-farm decisions. So at the end of the day, our connections should really make your life easier out there, minimizing time spent on redundant data entry and maximizing the value from a connected digital experience.
Yeah, that's a great way to lay it out. I mean, own what is core to you and then partner with purpose. And again, back to those farmer jobs, we realize some of these farmer jobs are things that FieldView at its core can tackle, and other are really important farmer jobs, but it's not our core business to tackle them. And that's where I think these partnerships come into play. So maybe driving into this, Mark, how do you and your team select those partners for FieldView?
Yeah, and again, we start with really trying to understand the use case that we're solving for our customer, the problem that we're solving for our customer, and then how it is relevant really to your operations. And we work very closely with our field teams. So your team, the climate activation managers in the field that you see maybe on a regular basis to understand what that is. And we're always happy to receive feedback from you guys, what other tools you might be using, where you could see a more seamless experience being of value, and then look to prioritize those in our efforts as well.
So Mark, maybe one question, and Megan invited the group to ask those hard questions. I'll ask the first hard questions. Mark, you know how important farmer trust and data privacy is for us, and how much time, effort, and money we spend to ensure that data privacy is respected within FieldView. Can you help us understand how do you work with partners to ensure that data privacy is also withheld to the maximum level?
Yeah, we really want to put our grower customers and farmer customers in the driver's seat when it comes to being in control of their data. When it comes to third-party applications in our partner ecosystem, that really means that every sharing relationship requires farmer permission. So we do not share any data with third parties without your consent. There's always an opt-in required. And right now we're actually currently investing in making it even more easy to see what's out there and manage your connections within your FieldView account. So more to come, and really excited to bring that to you guys over the next couple of months.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mark. I think that was really important to cover. Really, the grower data is the grower data. That is a key phrase for us. And as Mark laid out, none of the grower data will be shared with a third-party partner unless that farmer decides that they want to share their data. And again, really cool to hear that there's going to be an opportunity for our users to manage those relationships, those sharing relationships more easily in the future. So with that, before we head out to our breakout sessions, I really want to thank all the participants for joining today. And I also want to give a big thank you to all of our partners that are here today that have put a lot of work in preparing for this session And I think it's going to be a really good session. We're super happy to have this Partner Connect back and going, and hope to really make it something more routine going forward. So enjoy the sessions, and we'll see you back for the panel discussion.
Hey, thanks, Greg and Mark. Really appreciate the words and the insight. Right now, like I said, what we're going to do is we're actually going to have your group leaders each introduce your FieldView partners, and then we will drop the links to go into the sessions and kick it off. So Vince, if you want to drop a note in the chat to let the partners know we're introducing, and we'll be over there in a few minutes, that would be awesome. Okay, we're going to kick it off with Combyne. So Mark, will you tell us a little bit about Combyne?
Yeah, happy to do so. And you see Laura and Anna there with us. So they're Director of Partnerships and the CEO of Combyne, who over the past couple of years have built a crop marketing management tool that is really designed for farmers. So by tracking inventory, trade documents, net market positions, Combyne really helps you make a more informed crop marketing decision. And we'll have a FieldView integration coming live soon that we'll talk about. So looking forward to seeing you in that session.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Wyatt Jones. I'm the FieldView brand manager. And in my breakout session, we will be visiting with Conservis. So we will have Mr. Rick Myrup and Mr. Chris Nelson in our breakout. So Conservis is the farmer's advantage for making decisions, simplifying operations, and maximizing profits. They deliver better insights by centralizing data and reporting from planning to financials. So looking forward to our breakout session with Conservis.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Krista Russell. I lead the customer experience team here with Climate FieldView. And in my session, we will have FCC AgExpert. So we have Brian, who is a senior product owner for the company. And FCC AgExpert is a software built for Canadian agriculture. You can use AgExpert accounting to create income and expense reports, securely share financial data with your team, and manage your payroll. Use AgExpert Field to plan your crop year, track production cost, and manage your inventory. Field and accounting lets you enter, access, and share your data from anywhere. So looking forward to this session.
All right, and that's me. So we have Dawn, Betsy, and Cole with Farmers Mutual Hail. They are awesome. And Farmers Mutual Hail has been protecting America's farmers with innovative products and solutions for over 130 years. Wow. Providing crop and farm insurance across the U.S. They lead the industry in harnessing the power of precision ag technology with crop insurance to leverage data for streamlined reporting and an enhanced claim experience. Beyond technology, Farmers Mutual Hail solutions are backed with integrity, meaningful relationships, and expertise that has kept this company strong for generations. FMH integrates with Climate FieldView to allow growers to electronically report acreage and production directly to their FMH agent with a few simple clicks. The data can also be used to adjust a loss or complete an audit, saving time and speeding up a claim payment. So, and then we also have, there we go.
Sorry, I was getting off mute there, Megan. Yep, so Andy Foltz, I'm the U.S. Product Marketing Manager for our dealer solutions here at Climate. And I'm excited to talk with my good friends over at Intelinair. So we've got Tim, Kevin, and Connor, and they have some really well-versed and diverse backgrounds in their personal bios that we can go through in the breakout room. But Intelinair really helps agronomic management decisions by providing insights all season long for farmers and ag retailers through an easy-to-use interactive platform called AgMRI. So we're going to dive into that when we get in the breakout room. And AgMRI really helps deliver high-resolution aerial imagery from fixed-wing airplanes, satellites, and drones, which provide whole field views, increasing efficiencies by helping to prioritize fields and offering assurance that fields are monitored and reviewed by timely decision-making and helping identify sustainability opportunities. So Intelinair helps analyze millions of acres in the U.S. and several other countries from its headquarters in Indianapolis, Indiana. And you can learn how to take action through informed management decisions at agmri.com and in our breakout.
And hello all, I'm Scott Speck, U.S. Product Marketing Manager focused on our grower solutions here at Climate FieldView. And I'm super excited to lead the breakout session for Pattern Ag. In the Pattern Ag session, we'll take a look at a unique partner analyzing the journey of when the crop begins, and that's with the soil. Pattern Ag detects the most damaging pests and pathogens by measuring the biology of the soil to predict what will happen agronomically in your field. Pattern Ag uses this data to predict the biggest threats to your operation with over 90% confidence before the season starts. This accuracy and advanced timing unlock farm profitability by enabling precise product placement for your key agronomic inputs, and I really look forward to seeing you in our breakout.
Hey, thanks, group leaders. Really appreciate the introductions for our awesome partners. We're going to kick it off again with our Combyne group. So, Mark, what did you all learn?
Yeah, we really had a great time with Laura, Patrick in the Combyne session, and learned all about their crop marketing management tool, really designed to help better you manage crop inventory and make more informed marketing decisions to get more out of the production you have in the season. And what I'm really excited about is that we are currently working together to help tie your crop production information that you have in FieldView to your marketing information. And we'll launch the first part of the integration in a couple of weeks, so around about August. And then we'll look to expand on that over the next couple of months. So a lot of exciting stuff to come that Laura already gave us a quick snapshot on. So excited to see that coming out in the next couple of months.
Great. Sounds awesome. Can't wait. Why would you find out in Conservis?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. It was a great conversation with Rick and Chris both on Conservis. They did an awesome overview of the organization, the company, and then Chris did a deep dive into the tool and really gave us a step-by-step process to how it looks. So really neat to see how you can take your FieldView data and get it into Conservis and then work from there. But you can see it on the screen here. Conservis really showcased and allows a farmer to perform cost-based financial analysis in their growing activities right down to the square yard. So appreciate the time this morning with Rick and Chris in that breakout session.
Awesome. All right, Krista, you want to tell us what FCC AgExpert's up to?
Sure thing. So we also had a great conversation with Brian. I'm really giving an overview of the tool and all the benefits that FCC AgExpert has to bring to growers. But essentially, by connecting their agronomic data with financial data, producers can maximize farm profitability with their new FieldView and AgExpert field integration. We got to see a little bit of a demo video of that as well. So this is a large step closer towards AgExpert's vision of producers entering the information once and reusing it again across their trusted tools, programs, and applications.
Nice. We love that, don't we? And in our Farmers Mutual Hail group, which I was the leader for, we learned a whole lot. They are awesome. Oops, skipping over. So Don and Betsy and Cole walked us through. We had a great conversation about the benefits of using Precision Ag to digitally report. If you haven't taken that leap, I highly recommend, because they have taken the utmost caution to make sure it's as simple as possible. So when combining Farmers Mutual Hail and FieldView's unique integration, it provides that streamlined connection for farmers. And that's what we're looking for, right? So that they can report their acreage and their production to their Farmers Mutual Hail agent. And they use that precision data for crop insurance and you're already collecting, right? You already have it there to extend that value of your investment in that technology and resulting in financial benefits. Who doesn't love that? You're only paying premiums on the acres that are planted, which can save you money. Maybe take another vacation in there. Building an accurate APH database, which is beneficial in the case of a claim or an audit. Nobody likes to be audited, but we do love to be prepared just in case, right? And then Farmers Mutual Hail and FieldView integration provides that secure direct connection, right? Saving significant time during the reporting claim. So check them out if you're interested. And Andy, I hope Tim, Connor, and Kevin didn't give you too much trouble, but why don't you tell us your key takeaways?
No trouble at all. It was good to connect with them. And I worked with, Intelinair and Ag MRI when I was out in the field, really saw the value that they brought to, ag retailers, seed professionals, and customers. But we talked through, how easy the combination of FieldView and Ag MRI is. And we talked about the value of getting data into multiple platforms and being able to consult and collaborate around those in-season touch points, which is huge. And really, we spent a lot of time talking about how valuable those in-season actionable insights are. Because I think in digital agriculture, we spend a lot of time, bringing in planting, application, and harvest data, and then we analyze postseason. But Intelinair and AgMRI really give a unique opportunity for dealers and growers to consult and collaborate around the data they're bringing in to dig out insights that you can actually impact their acres in the current year and make a decision that helps make farmers more profitable. So that's those next level insights that we really talked about. Great conversation. Highly recommend you check out the YouTube video if you weren't in the session.
Nice. We love it. We love it. And Scott, take us home with Pattern.
Yeah, I think at the Pattern session, Mike and Danielle did an awesome job, not only giving us an overview of what Pattern Ag does and who they are, but also how the connection with Climate FieldView works. What we were able to do in the session was take a deep dive into the soil and start to look at the biology that impacts crop production on that day-to-day basis. With Pattern Ag, there's some unique things that we can do. We can predict pest and pathogen risks. We can help optimize not only those pathogen risks, but also the fertility plan that you may be doing on your farm, and also start to give insight into crop inputs selection. So things like seeds and crop protection to make sure that any of those pathogens or pests are as well managed as possible when you think about setting up that plan from start to finish with your soil. So it was a great session, and definitely encourage you to check out the YouTube video if you weren't in our session here once those links get posted.
When you have your data year one, what happens when you really start to accumulate it year over year? What type of benefits can growers see?
Thanks, Megan, and I apologize for that. Just as you were saying it, my call dropped. How crazy is that, right? It's just been my day. Megan, I think one of the things that from a crop insurance company perspective, when you're looking at somebody like FieldView and the data and the farmers using that data, we're really kind of on that back end and just that extension, right? But one of the barriers that we see a lot when we're talking to the farmers is that they don't always, and we actually heard it in our breakout session, they don't always maybe take the time every year to make sure they're calling the same field the same name, or maybe they've got operators that are helping them and they just put in field one because they just want to get going. They're in a hurry. They need to get planted before the thunderstorm or whatever it might be, right? And so when we've talked to farmers, they've said, that's one of the things that gets frustrating for me is I end up with all this data and I don't know what to do with it. We actually had a guy down in Kansas that had 900 farm and field names in his monitor. He only had like 79 fields, right? And so I think that value that we see as that barrier, and I see a bunch of you smiling because I think everybody could probably tag team in on this. From a crop perspective, I could probably use it no matter what you call that name. But when we are working with those farmers, we help them use something like FieldView to get that stuff lined back up, because we want to be able to help that farmer say, if I can see my field year over year, I can make decisions on it. I don't need that for crop insurance, but I bet a whole bunch of the other people on the panel do need that. But we offer a service to help those farmers get that set up and get it cleaned up so that they can come knock on all your doors and work with all the rest of you. So I'd be interested to see who else can jump on and say, what are that benefit then?
Yeah, Dawn, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Data is an interesting thing in agriculture, and I'd argue that data is actually worthless.
Right.
Insights are valuable. Data on its own does us no good. It's no better that we have digital data than it was when we had 3-ring binders that sat on the shelf and we printed all that information out and didn't do anything with it 15, 20 years ago. Where you get value is when you can actually apply some practicality to that. So how do I get trending out of that data? How do I understand what products are most profitable on a consistent basis? How do I understand which fields are going to be my most profitable on a consistent basis? My crop rotations. How could implementing practices like carbon sequestering profit me over a couple of years? And how do I project forward for that? And how do I create budgets that allow me to see the benefits from that over a period of years? So, from my perspective, the more data that we have, the better off you are, but you have to have it somewhere where you can actually do something with it, right? It has to be organized. It has to be consolidated. It has to be accurate. And I have to be able to look at it and understand what those trends are telling me. I've talked to a lot of farmers through the years, and a lot of farmers would complain that the more data I collect, the more I don't know what to do with it. If you don't have something to aggregate, analyze, and help you to interpret that data, it doesn't do you a lot of good. So, from our perspective, from a Conservis perspective, that's where, the more data we can put in, the more data we can capture, the greater financial insights that you have. And the reality is, it becomes a narrowing in on accuracy, right? So, knowing what profitability is for 1 year is great. Knowing what profitability is for 3 to 5 years is a whole new ballgame, because I'm starting to see trends. I'm starting to see which products, which practices, which fields are profiting me the most over a period of time consistently. And that helps me to understand where I want to make investments. It helps me to understand what my profit position, my cash flow position is going to be looking towards the future. And it allows me the opportunity to better plan for and understand how I want to either enhance or expand my operation and be able to do more with the operation and ultimately be able to do more with the data.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I always tell farmers from my experience, right? If you're new into this, don't try to hit it all in 1 year, right? Make a goal, make a simple goal that is relevant to you. Start there and build season over season. And I bet you would really surprise yourself. We all know the more we do something, the better we get at it, right? Would anybody else like to add before we switch into our next question? Okay. Combyne Group, I'm going to send one over to you. So talk to me about this. How, and we're kind of moving right off of this insurance, so I think it fits well. So how can ag tech providers and crop insurers work together, right, to provide a better customer experience to farmers?
Yeah, so we are, for those who weren't in our presentation, we do think the crop insurance angle is part of the whole crop marketing optimization decision-making angle, because it kind of provides a foundational level of confidence, especially on forward contracting and things like that. But when you look through the cycle of managing a crop insurance sequence, there's obviously just confirming the acres that you've actually planted and would like to get coverage on. And so there's certainly an interesting interaction there to think between FieldView and a crop insurer. But then as you obviously harvest and deliver, the whole actual realized revenue becomes part of the other packet of information that a crop insurer would like to have access to. So when it comes to how do you streamline the whole processes, can you actually exchange data through API structures and whatnot, I think is the first part, is sort of the piping in the background. And then think about the workflow and the presentation of that information between the farmer and the adjuster, so that they're all working off one central packet of data that may be coming from 2 or 3 different sources, but that represents the whole cycle from planning to planting to harvesting to confirming revenue levels. Like figuring out that piece is, I think, really a great way to kind of enhance the whole crop insurance process. And without kind of saying too much, we've been approached by, in particular, in sort of our current core home turf, the Canadian landscape, but also starting to look at the US, by some of the crop insurance bodies there, because they're realizing they'd like to really modernize the whole way that they manage all this, and they see that a lot of the things we put together between sort of projected bushels and crop plans and sort of as realized revenue and contracts is actually a lot of the foundational information that they spend their time having to gather. So we're very open to figuring out how do we make all this tie and work together overall.
Better together for sure. Would anybody else like to add on that joint relationship and connecting APIs for better experience? Okay. Well, we're going to move over to the next question here. So Intelinair, I'm calling on you all, and I'm going to phrase this question so that others can hop off of it as well. So you join your company, you're working with your software, and it's a new experience, you're learning, and some of you might have been from the very beginning with your companies as well, but maybe moved from other places. Tim and my Intelinair group, what has really surprised you the most about your platform and the benefits that you see your users really reaping from utilizing it?
Yeah, so Megan, the areas that have really surprised me the most, and I would say a lot of this has occurred this year, is first of all, we've seen a real increase of some large farmers that are coordinating with their input suppliers or their seed dealers and having them come on our platform. So you really have, if you want to use the phrase takes a community to grow a crop, that dynamic is in play. So anytime anyone is going into that field, they're going into the AgMRI or our digital platform scouting app and documenting what they're finding. And so you've got this broad group of influencers that are coming together in one area of having all that information in one place. So that's been really helpful on that. And the feedback on that's been really good. The other one that jumps out at me is in the area of nitrogen. And a lot of our business is centered around the I states. So we know that up until recently, very dry, arguably drought conditions, et cetera. And we were seeing quite a variability across the fields in terms of fertility deficiencies, correlating a lot with soil type, et cetera. So that was a significant surprise of just how pronounced the fertility situation was in terms of the variability within a field. And I'd say the last one, Megan, to answer your question that jumps out at me is what we call the look back, which is taking this data. And of course, people are using this to help them manage this year, but actually the farmer and the retailer is an example, sitting down and using this data to relive the year, so to speak, and be able to say, hey, what would we do different? What did we learn? If this were to occur next year, here's what we'd want to utilize. Those would be the three areas that I've really seen that have been, I'll even add a word, pleasant surprises for us this year.
Awesome. I'm going to open this up to the rest of the panelists. Thinking about your own platform, what's been most surprising to you as you've come on board and learned more about the power of these digital tools?
I'll speak for Pattern on this particular subject. So, our platform, what I'm really proud of is that it's super simple. We've taken something that is very complex in analyzing the soil microbiome, and Danielle and her team have turned this around, and our product team has turned this around into just super simple insights that not only the grower can understand, but the grower's kid can understand. I think it was said earlier that data without insights is pretty well useless. It's what you do with that data and turn it around so that growers can make really important key decisions before the crop is planted. And so, by us being able to link that to FieldView and adding that most important layer of data, which is soil biology, on top of what actually happens in the season, it tells the complete story of that crop on that particular field.
I think I
Hey,
can jump. No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to maybe express my view from my experience at FieldView. I've been with Bayer over 20 years, but just joined the FieldView team about a year ago. And really what surprised me in a very favorable way was the people. The people we have within our FieldView team, maybe in the field, maybe in the back office, but their passion to really solve those problems and the array of knowledge that we need to have in this digital ag space. It touches equipment, it touches fertility, it touches seed and crop protection product, it touches, of course, the IT part of it. And so it's, coming from a background more around seed or crop protection, this is a much broader view of the ag space. And you're really sitting alongside with that farmer in so many different jobs that he has to do over the season. That's been very, very enlightening for me and really cool to see how somebody said it takes a tribe to grow that crop, and being part of that tribe is a really good feeling.
I was just going to connect maybe both of those two things together. I think for us, the surprising part when you talk about both the people and keeping it simple is that when we started working with Climate to connect with FieldView, one of the goals that we had was really to be able to reach all farmers that are out there, because we have some farmers that are really well established into doing all their insight management. And we have others that really have paid all this money for this equipment and they're basically auto steering and that's about it, right? And so when we started working with FieldView and one of the things we wanted to make sure that we were doing was really keeping the front end components of it simple for those who were taking those first steps, so that we could get them in, get them comfortable, help them get over the hurdles of being comfortable just with gathering the data, feeling good about it, and then being able to use it. So we didn't want to add a lot of complexity in a step that isn't the area where you need it. But by doing that and then working with other people using the API connections, and we can help keep moving down the journey with those farmers that are further on that scale of being able to fully use those insights. So I think that that's a real important connection there, that we can plug people in anywhere along the way by working together.
Absolutely. Alon, did you want to add to that? I thought I saw you coming off as well.
Yeah, I think the one thing, and maybe a slightly different angle to this, is, you know, we're big proponents of breaking down those data silos and integrating things. But I'd say there's kind of been two big things we've noticed. The first one is, as much as we understand it conceptually what we're trying to do, it's not necessarily obvious for a lot of farmers, even on our own farm, and try to, you know, work through these concepts with my father, with my siblings. I don't think everyone's fully realized the productivity gains, the sort of things get a lot more efficient when you start tying things together, because they haven't necessarily experienced it. And I think we tend to kind of come from the software world thinking, oh, this is obvious to do. So I think there's a whole still ongoing education and accompaniment about what powerful things can happen once you start tying things together, which I'm not necessarily convinced every farmer today fully appreciates what could come out of that. And then I would add the second thing is, as much as I think there's been a lot of good intentions, you realize there's still a lot of data that isn't standardized that easily talks to each other. Just in our own world, you know, when we look at grain transaction documents, they fundamentally always have the same pieces of information, but they are literally either laid out differently, presented differently, labeled differently, using slightly different nomenclature to describe yellow corn or whatnot. And so that's still, I think, a piece of work that we're realizing is not yet done. It's sort of one of the things we focus on that part specifically. And even with partners that have API structures and whatnot, we're starting to realize, oh, wait, like you have an API, but the data itself is actually not fully standardized. So those are still, it's like, I think we're still on a sort of somewhat of a marathon process, and definitely don't want to be cutting corners as we're attacking this. It needs to be done right, both on sort of generally educating, but then also as you build it, to take the time to do it right. And there still is a lot of hair pulling to get it done, I would say.
Yeah, Megan, I'd jump in, and you know, my perspective is a unique one, right? I walked the halls at Old Monsanto Climate and Bayer for nearly 20 years before I came over to Conservis. So less surprise and more confirmation, right? As somebody that spent 10 years helping to build the FieldView platform, and one of the first people that came over after the acquisition, you know, we always looked at the platform partners as the opportunity to extend the system, right? To extend the platform and to bring additional value. Well, as I moved over to Conservis, you know, for me, it's been confirmation that, hey, we're closing the loop here, right? FieldView is a tremendous platform for agronomist analysis, for data collection, for data aggregation, for data portability, as was just mentioned. But then when you add in something like Conservis that can take that next step and get beyond yield to profitability, it really closes the loop for a farmer. It helps to understand a cash position. It helps to understand your profitability, and allows for more specificity in the tool, right? I think that everybody wants the silver bullet, right? Everybody wants that one software package that does everything. Yeah, I'm here to tell you that as somebody that's spent 20 years in technology, that's a pipe dream. If you're looking for one system that does everything, you're looking for a unicorn that doesn't exist. Heck, Google doesn't do everything, right? There isn't one system out there that does any one thing. And people that try to do too much, they tend to not do very many things very well, right? So when we've got more data portability, when we have more platform partnerships, I think it allows us to focus on our core capabilities to really deliver simplicity in those areas and really provide tangible, practical value, because there's a lot of smoke in the industry, right? There's hundreds of different companies that are out there offering digital ag solutions at this point. In my experience with farmers has always been practicality wins the day, and really being able to be clear, concise on how systems work together, what the net benefit coming out of those is really where the rubber hits the road.
Megan, I'd like to add a little bit to that on Rick's point. As some of you know, in our breakout, I was a customer of Conservis before being an employee. And one of the things that excited me the most about Conservis is they actually listen to their customers. They listen to the farmers as far as development goes. Things that might make the system better. They listen to their customer. We listen to the customers and work off that on development. Now being on the employee side and being with the company since 17, I've seen numerous situations where customers have brought stuff to our attention. Hey, this would be great to add to Conservis to make it a more substantial tool, more dynamic, and have seen so many different pieces added to the system and continue to be added. The development continues. It's as everybody on this panel knows that if you stop development, you're going to lose. And we continue to develop new tools like profitability, being able to go into a zone level and see within that zone different parts of those zones. So it's exciting for me to sit down with new prospects and current customers and show them, all the exciting tools. But that's what impresses me most about our company.
Absolutely. Phenomenal answers from everyone. In my personal experience in the field, I once had a farmer come up to me and say, Megan, I just want all my stuff in one place. I want one thing that does it all. And I said to him very frankly, I totally understand that. However, that doesn't exist. And you don't want it to exist for the exact reasons that you all just mentioned, right? And that, Greg talked about it, Greg and Mark, we own our core and we partner strategically everywhere else, allowing our partners to do the best thing that they do in the best way. And then we connect, right, and create that streamlined experience, which is ever evolving, right? We have many farmers who are just starting their journey. Some of them have been super users for years. So we have a whole spread of growers looking to take advantage of digital technology. And I'm really excited about this partner group here, right? And coming together, because that not only does it make our lives easier when we work well together, but it really, most importantly, makes the growers experience the best it can be. Okay, we have time for a couple more questions. And so I'm gonna send this over to you, Brian, because I know this is something you're really passionate about. Tell me about data ownership. What is your attitude? What's FCC AgExpert's attitude? What's your stance on that? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Megan. And I just want to say I've been really enjoying this discussion, and I haven't chimed in because I feel like my thoughts maybe aren't as succinct as some of the ones that have been shared here, but there's been really great points shared all around. But yeah, when it comes to data ownership, I think there's a lot of like-minded companies here with our partner group, but for us, yes, we can create a protected vessel to house that data. We can create pipelines with each other here to transport that data, but at the end of the day, the stance for AgExpert is that data is producer, farmer, grower owned. If we look at it's a digital asset, unlike any other physical asset that a producer will own. So if we look at the raw materials for a new barn or a house, like the lumber, the brick, the drywall, et cetera, like that on its own, probably not a lot of good. But back to, I think it was Rick's point earlier around getting value out of this, we're the sense makers of that, and we can take those materials and build value with these protected vessels that we have, so that we're driving value in that producer owned data so that they can get more out of that digital asset. So we do that through our Ag Data Transparency certification. And again, I know we have a few ADT certified companies here as well, including our latest integration with FieldView. And with our experience and background, particularly with Canadian producers, that has a lot of validity and credibility for sure. We've done extensive research in the past on trust in ag data ownership usability and how that data is being used. And ADT has been one of those turning points for us where it really helps grow that trust with our producers that it's not being used maliciously or against them. We just want to help them get the most out of that data because it can be overwhelming. But again, just driving home that point, if we can help keep doing that sense making for our producers, then they're going to continue getting that value.
Yeah, Brian, I think you bring up a really good point. It's around the trust. That's the number one item when a grower looks at, am I going to share my data? They look at that company and try to get a good screening on how much do I trust this company? What are they going to do? Do they have the right technologies implemented to protect my data? And then a lot of it is, how do we prove the value it adds for the grower? I think about when I do online shopping, and if I go to a website and they're asking me for my credit card information, complete the transaction, do you want to save this credit card information for the future purchase? The first time, I may not click that box. In the meantime, Amazon probably has 2 or 3 credit cards on file in my account because there is a trust. I figure they probably handle my data. There's less opportunities for that data to leak. But I also see the value it has for me as a customer that I really gain that time not having to re-enter all that information. So I think we just all need to continue putting in place some of these safeguards to make sure that we're able to prove to our customers that we've managed their data in a very conscientious way. And then continue to prove the value it has for them to share that data. And that is to what Rick said earlier, data in itself doesn't really serve a purpose until you're able to really gain insights out of it and start making decisions with it.
Absolutely. Anybody else before we hit the next question?
Maybe I find one angle that is interesting in our context is we deal with documents that are actually have joint data ownership. So if you take a grain contract, really you have 2 parties involved. You have the person selling it, which is the farmer, you have the grain buyer, the party buying it. And I think one of the challenges is, well, because that information typically sits inside a grain buyer system, the initial thought is, well, it's grain buyer's prerogative or information set. But really that data leaves the system and is shared with the other co-owner of that data, which is the farmer, in the form of a PDF or a screenshot or a portal or an app of some sort. And part of the conversation we have to have is explain that this data is actually jointly owned and should more easily flow to the farmer just as much as the buyer kind of manages it. So it gets into this interesting, slightly different nuanced view of this isn't just one party's information, it's actually 2 different parties' information on different sides of the transaction. And so that also tends to create a little bit more complexity about explaining, well, they should flow. You are exchanging this information, so there isn't really sort of one clear owner, and it's a question of how it's going to be properly used in the hands of each of those 2 co-owners of information.
I think that's a great point, Alan, and I think that's why maybe a bit more context with the ADT piece there. Like, it's ag data transparency, so you nailed it with just being transparent with how that data is being used. Again, I had shared AgExpert stance on it. Just anyone can become ADT certified. It's how are you transparent in how that data is being used and what the ownership is of it, because you're absolutely right. As long as we share that in plain speak, what is happening, who owns it, are there joint owners, how is it being shared or used, just as long as that isn't buried or protected from the grower, then I think we're in a good place for everyone.
Yeah, Megan, if I can
Sorry,
if I can pivot slightly off of this, one other thing I'd point out to the folks listening in the audience today is you should be paying attention to what the companies you're working with stance is on data portability. Data transparency is crucial. Could not agree with you more, Brian. And we need to make sure that throughout the industry, we maintain that it is the grower's information. They have ownership over that and that they understand what's happening with that information. But as growers are evaluating partners, one of the first things you should be asking is, how portable is my data out of your system? If you run into partners or software providers that don't make it easy for your data to leave their system, it's built that way on purpose, right? It's called a data silo. One of the things they're trying to do in those instances is they're trying to keep you captive to their system. You want to work with companies that understand that there's greater value for you as the customer by allowing that data to flow into other systems freely, easily, and be able to collaborate across those platforms. So I'd encourage you, as you're going out and you're evaluating software partners, as you're evaluating data platforms, first things that you should be asking folks is, what is your stance on data portability, and how easy will you make it for me to move my data into other systems that can help my operation to be more profitable?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Phenomenal answers from everyone. Okay, I'm gonna send one more question out to the group, and then we'll wrap up here. We've hit our half hour. I want to send this over to Pattern Ag, but I want to phrase this because, so a little backstory. When I was starting this project and planning, I hadn't met many of the partners yet, and getting to know them, I had a preconceived notion that maybe they viewed themselves more as competitors, and I wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page. But I was actually pleasantly surprised in talking to them and how they describe themselves, that really every company's kind of carved out their own little piece in the industry at this point, and they're continuing to do so, especially with the group we have here. So that being said, Danielle and Mike, I'm kind of curious, how do you see Pattern fitting into the landscape, and to the other partners too? Like, how do you see your individual company fitting into the overall landscape of new technology being introduced?
Yeah, I'll take that first, and then Danielle can add anything if she'd like. So the context is that we look at everything through the lens of the grower and making sure that we're providing something that is tangible back to them that they can make decisions on. And so the piece, what we provide is biological insights, very complex, but we make it really simple so that the grower can make decisions in advance on really important decisions like hybrid selection, trait selection, seed treatments, fungicide application, management decisions, rotation decisions. And we do it at a field level view so that we can and make it super, super simple so that they can make those decisions on a field level view just like that with their trusted advisor. At the end of the day, our lens and our North Star is the grower, and making things so intuitive that are huge decisions that they have to make that are going to impact the top end yield of that crop. And we do it in a predictive way. So that, I guess that's what I would say is, where our niche is. We're not product based, so we don't particularly call out any brands. We're brand agnostic, but it is a missing piece of data that is super important, which is the biology of that soil and how the very medium that you plant that grower plants that seed in is going to impact in the upcoming season. So I guess Danielle, from your perspective in data science, is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
And mostly that, we're interested in operating in partnership with other companies. We are a part of a very complex puzzle that growers are trying to respond to. It's, I think, an important and useful part. And so, we're really thinking about how do we do these integrations. But ultimately, there are a lot of components that growers are responding to. There's a market that they're responding to. There's, retail is constantly adjusting its genotypes and phenotypes of, what is offered in seed stock. There's new chemistries, and we're trying to simply create an infrastructure that helps growers make decisions in those integrations with all of the, constantly changing market. And so, so I don't, competition isn't our focus, it's integration always.
Yeah, and the last thing I would say is, through the lens of a grower who, our family has been farming since the late 1700s, each field has a story, right? And I said this in our session. Right now, we know the first chapter, which is what happened at planting. What did I put in the ground? What were the conditions like? We know the last chapter, which is what was the yield at the end of the year. What we don't know are the missing pieces in the middle. And that's what all of these companies are here, are to put those missing pieces together to write those chapters. Now we do it a little bit differently in that we're providing the information or the stories within those chapters before the book is even written. Okay. we're able to tell them, what are your risks before? But everybody here has a role in being able to provide data input, data insights to that grower to give them a complete view of that story that occurred on that field. And that's the way that I always thought about it. My father, my grandfather always thought about it. Every field is different. And you go across that field about 5, 6, 7 times a year, you're going to know every square inch of that, but you don't necessarily understand what's happening deep inside that soil. So I'm proud to, partner with folks like Climate FieldView to layer our data on top of yours, so that when you get that yield map at the end of the season, you can see, here's what I did to maximize that yield at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. Yep. Mike, you and I have been telling that same story and congruent without even knowing it. I always describe fields like a book, and you're filling in your chapters, and each layer is a page. And the more you add to that, right, the more robust that information is going to be. And that's where your insights come from, right?